Slideshow.
Hello students, welcome again back to biology CET classes. Okay, so we have discussed with the second PUC first two chapters as well as the morphology of flowering plants. Now I am going to discuss with the one more important chapter, okay, of first PUC biology, that is anatomy of flowering plants. So in the last class we have discussed with the morphology. What do you mean by morphology? Study of external features of the organism. Whereas here, what does anatomy means? Isn't it? So in the morphology of flowering plants, we have discussed entirely with about the external features of the plants. Whereas now in this chapter, we are going to study about how the plant has been made up of, which type of cells are there, which type of tissues are there, arrangement, how it is the arrangement of the tissues. Like that, we are going to study in the next chapter called as what? Anatomy of the flowering plants. Okay. So before going for the chapter, first we have to know the definition of anatomy. Okay. So what does anatomy means? So the anatomy is a branch of biology which deals with the study of internal organization of living organisms, not only plants, entire living organisms. The branch anatomy concerned with the study of internal organization of all living organisms. Okay, so that branch of biology is called as what? Anatomy. In this chapter, we are going to study about the anatomy of flowering. Okay, next. So here, the group of cells which are performing similar function and they are similar in appearance will combine to form a structure called as tissue. So there is another branch in the biology which deals with the study of tissue and tissue system is called as what? Histology. You can split the word into two parts, that is histo and logy. Logy means to study and histo meaning is tissue. Okay, so the branch of biology which deals with the study of tissue and tissue systems inside the living organisms, which especially which living organisms here? Multicellular organisms. So that's why it is called as what? Multicellular organisms. Okay, so which are made up of more than one cell. Then only the tissue will come. Okay, next. So anatomy and histology are the main branches of biology that we are going to study in this chapter. In this chapter, we are mainly concentrating on the anatomy as well as study of tissues of plants only, especially which plants? The flowering plants. Okay, that is nothing but angiosperms. Next, coming to the cells found inside the plant tissues or plant body organization, the group of cells which has been combined to form a structure called as what? Tissue. The group of cells which are performing same function, having same structure. Okay, sometimes the structure may be different. Okay, and the function may also be different. So entirely the tissues has been divided into many types. The tissues which are found inside the plants have been divided into many. Which are those? So plant tissue classification shows how many types of tissues are there inside the plant structure. Okay, very first, the tissue has been divided into how many types here? Two types. There is meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. So meristematic, what is the meaning of meristematic here? Okay, the cells of the tissue which are having the capacity to involve in a process called as cell division. They are having the capacity to involve in a process called as cell division and they will produce new cells. Okay, so in simple we can tell the definition of a meristematic tissue that the tissue which is formed by the cells which are capable of division. Okay, so such a type of tissue is called as what? Meristematic tissue. The meaning of meristematic is that meristos means what? To divide. Okay, the meaning of meristos means to divide. So the tissue which involves an active cell division is called as what? Meristematic tissue. Okay. The cells of the meristematic tissue will grow, undergo maturation, and they lose the capacity to divide. They will lose the capacity of cell division, and then become a next type of tissue called as what? Permanent tissue. So what is the definition for permanent tissue here? So mature cells are incapable of division. They are capable of division and these are incapable of division. Even though they does not have the capacity to divide, but they will perform certain functions. Okay. Again, meristematic tissue is divided into many types as well as permanent tissue is also divided into many types. Okay. So the permanent tissue, depending upon their appearance, they are again divided into simple and complex. About the meristematic tissue, I'll discuss in the next slide. Okay, I'll complete this flowchart first. Okay, so the permanent tissue is divided into two types. That is simple permanent tissue and complex permanent tissue. Okay, so what's the meaning of simple permanent tissue here? The name only indicates the structure of these cells found in this permanent tissue are simple in its appearance. All are having same size, performing same function, and having same structure. Okay, so such type of tissue is called as what? Simple permanent tissue. Okay. Next, what is complex then? The permanent tissue which is made up of different types of cells performing different function as well as having different size and different structure. Such a type of tissue is said to be what? Complex permanent tissue. Okay, so permanent tissue is divided into simple and complex permanent tissue depending upon the types of cells found in them. Okay. Again, this simple permanent tissue is divided into three types, that is parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Okay. Next, complex permanent tissue is divided into two types, that is xylem and phloem. Complex permanent tissue is divided into xylem and so this is overall classification of the plant tissue. So based upon their capacity or based upon their structure and function. Okay. So this is about the plant tissue classification. Shall we go for the next one? Oh. So this is about the types of meristematic tissue. What is meristematic tissue? The tissue which have the capacity to actively involve in a process called as cell division. Okay, so such a type of tissue is said to be what? Meristematic tissue. This meristematic tissue is of two types. How many types? Two types. Which are those? Primary meristematic tissue and secondary meristematic tissue. Or simple, we will call it as primary meristem and secondary meristem. Okay, so what is primary meristematic tissue? The meristematic tissue which develops in the early part of the plant life is called as primary meristem. Okay, whereas the tissue which involves in the or which develops in the later part of the plant life is called as secondary meristem. First develop we will call it as primary meristem, and secondary meristem is that which develops in later part of the plant growth. Next, this primary meristem involves in increasing in length of the plant. Plant ಉದ್ದ ಬೆಳೆಯುವಲ್ಲಿ help ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಯಾವುದು primary meristem. Whereas secondary meristem involves in increasing the girth of the plant or width of the plant. Plant ಅಗಲ ಬೆಳೆಯೋದಕ್ಕೆ help ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. Okay. Next, primary meristem is again of two types, apical meristem and intercalary meristem. What is apical meristem then? The meristematic tissue, which one? Primary meristematic tissue which occurs in early apex region. Okay, where is apex region such as root apex, shoot apex, tip. The meaning of apex here is tip region. So the primary meristem which occurs near the tips of the shoot as well as the root, such a type of primary meristem is called as what? Apical meristem. The meaning of apical means tip region. Okay, next. So this involves an increase in the length of the plant. Next, intercalary meristem. The meristem found between the two nodal region, harder part of the plant. Such meristem is called as what? Intercalary meristem. This also involves an increase in the length of the plant. Next, so the type of secondary meristem is called as lateral meristem, which develops at the sides, lateral sides of the plant body. Such meristem is called as what? Lateral meristem. This meristem involves an increasing in the girth of the plant. So that's why apical and intercalary meristem are the types of primary meristem which involves an increasing length of the plant. Whereas lateral meristem is a type of a secondary meristem which develops at the later part of the plant life and involves an increasing the width of the plant. Okay. So other types of meristematic tissues are also there. So that this is a characteristic of the meristematic tissue. So these are thin walled, abundant cytoplasm, and they have the capacity of division with no intercellular space. Okay. So other types of meristematic tissue is also there apart from what we have discussed in this flow chart. Okay. This is about that. You can take a screenshot. Based on origin, the primary meristem is again meristematic tissue is divided into promeristem. Okay, the group of meristematic cells found in embryo. Okay, this is called as what? Promeristem, which only gave rise to primary meristem. Okay, next intercalary meristem. This we have discussed. Next, lateral meristem. This also we have discussed. Okay. Arranged parallel to the sides of the organs of the plant. Next, primary meristem, which is formed from promeristem, which involves in formation of secondary permanent tissue. Primary or secondary permanent tissues. Example, apical meristem, vascular meristem, intercalary meristem. Okay, these are the example for primary or secondary permanent tissue. Next. Secondary meristem, so which are formed at a later stage in the plant from permanent tissue. Okay, example for this is a cork cambium, interfascicular cambium. We'll come with the word cork means what and fascicular cambium means what in the later part of the chapter. Okay, next. Again, permanent tissue is divided into two types, simple permanent, complex permanent. This we have discussed now. So shall we go for in detail study of parenchyma, collocyma, sclerenchyma. So this is a simple permanent tissue called as parenchyma. Diagram will look like this. This is the whole cell and enlarged one. Okay, this one is the enlarged one. And these are isodiametric, spherical or polyhedral, spherical or oval in their shape. Cell wall is made up of cellulose, which are compactly packed with less or intercellular spaces may form. Main function is that they involve in photosynthesis, storage, and circulation. Okay, these are called as simple living tissue because the cells found in this tissue are all living in its condition. Okay, next is the collocyma. The meaning of colon. Okay, chyma means tissue here. The meaning of colon is glue, means attached. Okay, adhered. So the cells are oval or spherical in their shape with thickened corners. Especially the cells show thickening at the corner regions like this. Okay, this is due to the deposition of pectin. The cell wall is made up of cellulose and hemicellulose. The pectin will go and deposit more at the corners. It shows thickened corners. Okay, this does not show any intercellular spaces and may contain chloroplast. Mainly it involves in providing mechanical support where we can find such a type of tissue and growing parts of the green plants such as stem, petiole, pedicel. Okay, like this. In these areas, we can see the parenchyma tissue. Main function of this tissue is providing mechanical support. Okay, and this in common it is called as living mechanical tissue. Why? All the cells are living in that appearance and they are providing mechanical support. That's why it is called as what? Living mechanical tissue. So this is about next simple permanent tissue, that is sclerenchyma. Okay, these are having two types of cells, that is fibers and sclerids. Okay, so these two are the types of sclerenchyma cells. And the sclerids are also called as stone cells. Why? Because they are very much harder in their appearance. So that's why they are also called as stone cells. Next, these are long, narrow cells with lignified wall. The cell wall is of sclerenchyma cells are made up of what? Lignin. Okay. The cells of the sclerenchyma tissue are of two types, which are those fibers and sclerids. Next, fibers are made up of thick-walled, elongated, pointed cells. This first diagram is of fibers. So sclerids are spherical, oval, or cylindrical in their appearance with narrow lumen lines. Okay, the lumen is narrow. What do you mean by lumen? The cavity found inside the cells of the sclerenchyma is called as what? Lumen. The hollow cavity is called as lumen. Why? Because the sclerenchyma cells are dead. When they grow and mature, they will become dead. Even though they are dead, they will perform their specific function. Okay, so that's why the cells are dead. There will be a hollow cavity inside the cell. That cavity is called as what? Lumen. Okay, next, where we can see the presence of the sclerids, fruit balls of nuts in some of the seed coats such as ova, pear, and okay. So main function of this is also called as providing mechanical. It is commonly called as dead mechanical tissue. Why? Because the cells are dead and it provides mechanical support. Hence they are called as what? Dead mechanical tissue. Okay. So they are very hard in their appearance. Hence the fibers of the coconut. So fibers of the coconut are used in the preparation of coils. Coil industry is used. So since they are very rich in, or very made up of hard fibers. They are rich in hard fibers which are very hard on the appearance and provide mechanical support. They are used in the coil industries. Okay, so this is about the simple permanent tissue, parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Next, we are going to discuss with the complex permanent tissue, that is xylem and phloem. Okay, xylem is regarded as water and mineral conducting tissue, whereas phloem is regarded as food conducting tissue. The cells of the xylem are of different types, which are those xylem brachids, xylem basal, xylem fibers, and xylem pap. Okay, so xylem brachids and xylem, these are xylem brachids and xylem vessels. See here, the vessel members are broader in their appearance, having broad end when compared with the tracheates. Okay, tracheates are having smaller ends. Next, so one special characteristic what we can appear here, gymnosperms lack this xylem vessels. Xylem vessels are absent in gymnosperm, but we can find this in angiosperm, which is the main water transporting system. Okay, so this may be a one CT question. The main water transporting system in angiosperms are, so four options. So we can easily click the xylem vessels. Okay, next, xylem fibers and xylem. See, all the four cells are different in their structure, performing different function and appearing in different structure. See here, the xylem parenchyma is living in its appearance and it provides storage, photosynthesis, and secretion function. Whereas xylem fibers are dead and these provides mechanical support. Whereas xylem vessels involves in the conduction of water and minerals. And xylem brachids also involves in the conduction of water and minerals. Okay, so these are different types of cells found inside the cell. Among them, only one is living cell and the remaining three are dead cells. Okay. The main function is performing, conducting water and minerals. Coming to the types of xylem. The xylem are of two types. There is primary xylem, secondary. What is primary xylem? The primary xylem is a xylem elements which formed in the early part of the plant. Whereas what is secondary xylem? The xylem which is formed in the later part of the plant is called as what? Secondary xylem. Again, the primary xylem is divided into two types. That is protoxylem and metaxylem. Okay. So what is protoxylem and metaxylem? We have to know this because many questions have been framed on this concept. So it is represented by vessels that are formed earlier. It is represented by vessel members that are formed late. Okay. Lumen is narrow, lumen is wide. Or lumen, hollow cavity found inside the cells is narrow. Here it is wider, means low, uglier. Okay. Next. Vessels exhibit annular and spiral type of thickenings, whereas vessels exhibit scaliform, reticulate, and pitted type of thickenings. So, the thickenings of the vessel members are of different types. That is annular, spiral, scaliform, scale type appearance. That is scaliform. Ring ತರ ಇದ್ರೆ ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ಅದನ್ನ annular. Spiral shape ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತಿರುಗಿಸಿ ಆ ತರ thickening deposition ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ xylem members ಮೇಲೆ we will call it as spiral type of thickening. Pitted means dot appearance ಅಲ್ಲಿದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ pitted type of thickening. So in protoxylem we will observe this annular and spiral thickening, whereas in metaxylem we will observe scaliform, reticulate, and pitted type of thickenings. Okay. So this is about protoxylem and metaxylem. The primary xylem is divided into two types. There is protoxylem and metaxylem. And where the protoxylem and metaxylem appears in the tissue, okay, depending upon that, the xylem has been again divided into two types. That is endark and exarch. See, what is endark then? Protoxylem towards the pit or center, whereas metaxylem towards the periphery. Okay, such a type of arrangement of xylem elements are called as what? Endark xylem, where we can see such a type of arrangement inside the stem. Okay, so in stem, we will see such a type of arrangement. So these are metaxylem, wider cavity elements, and these are protoxylem, narrow vessels. Okay, so if this is facing towards the inner part of the arrangement of tissue, then metaxylem is facing towards the periphery. Such a type of arrangement is said to be endark. Okay. Next, what do you mean by exarch? The protoxylem is facing towards periphery and metaxylem is facing towards inner. See, in the center we can see the appearance of metaxylem. Yeah? Whereas in the outer region we can see the formation of protoxylem. So such a type of an arrangement is called as exarch. So all these are very important because many questions have been framed on this concept. Okay. Next, I hope it is clear for you people. So next is the food conducting tissue, that is phloem. Okay. So phloem is again made up of four different types of cells, which are those. So phloem parenchyma, phloem fibers, and then main elements, which main cells which involves in the conduction of food is called as seed tube cells. What is that? Seed tube cells, which are arranged in the form of a plate-like structure. All the seed tube cells will come and arrange in a plate-like structure to form a structure called as what? Seed plate. Okay. Seed plate, seed tube cells, and all this together constitute the seed elements. Okay. So one special thing about the seed tube cells are these are enucleated cells, which are the cells found in the plants. Name the enucleated cells found in the plants. Seed tube cells. Okay. Next, exactly very near to these seed tube cells, we can see the formation of a cell called as companion cell. Okay, so these are having dense cytoplasm. The main function of the companion cells is to control the movement of food which is passing through the seed tube cells. Okay, here these are also made up of four different types of cells: xylem parenchyma, xylem, phloem parenchyma, phloem fibers, seed tube elements, and companion cells. Main cells which involves in the conduction of water is food is seed tubes, whereas companion cells will control the movement of amount of food inside the seed. And phloem parenchyma is involving in photosynthesis, storage, and secretion, whereas phloem fibers provide mechanical support. Among the four cells, all the three are living: companion cells, seed tube cells, and phloem parenchyma. Only one is the dead cell, that is phloem fibers. Okay, next. So this is about the functions of different types of phloem tissue. So next is the arrangement of these tissues inside the plants. So simple permanent tissue, complex permanent tissue, meristematic tissue, and then different types of how all the right types of tissues have been arranged inside the plant structure. Okay, so that is the arrangement of tissue system or formation of tissue system. Basically, the tissue system inside the plants is divided into three types, which are those: epidermal tissue system, vascular tissue system, ground tissue system. Okay, so what is this epidermal tissue system then? Outermost plant body elegans, outermost covering. Next, made up of epidermal cells, epidermal appendages, and stomata. Okay, so these are made up of single layer cells with small amount of cytoplasm and large bands. Next, cuticle prevents the loss of water from aerial parts of the plants. Epidermis are deposited by a hard covering layer called as what? Cuticle, which avoids the loss of water. Epidermis is interrupted by a small pore-like structure called as stomata. Okay, so structure of stomata is also important. Epidermal tissue system, where it will be found in the outermost covering of the plants. Plant body, plant body, plant structure. You will find the epidermal tissue system in the outermost covering of the plant body, which is made up of epidermal cells, epidermal appendages, and stomata. Okay, so epidermal cells are made up of single layer of cells, and then epidermal appendages consisting of root hairs or stem hair called as trichome. We are not supposed to call it as a stem hair, we have to call it as a trichome. Okay, so trichome and then stomatal apparatus. Okay, so the structure of stomatal apparatus is very much important. This is the structure of stomatal apparatus, so which is consisting of a small opening called as stomata, and then which is surrounding by a special type of cells called as guard cells. Why they are called as guards? Because they are always guarding the stomatal apparatus. Hence, they are called as guard cells. The structure of the guard cells is bean shaped in case of dicot plants, as well as dumbbell shape in case of monocot plants. The structure is very important. Bean shape in case of dicot, dumbbell shape in case of monocot. Okay. Next, the structure consisting of thick wall, cell wall in innermost layer, which is very clear to the or very near to the stomatal apparatus, whereas the outer wall is thin when compared to inner. Okay, so inside the cell we can see the presence of a nucleus, chloroplast, and microfibrils. The contraction and relaxation of microfibrils helps in opening and closing of the stomata. So, the main function of stomata then, what it will do? It will involve in a process called as transpiration. So, what is transpiration then? The loss of excess of water, which is not required for the growth of the plant during the night time. Okay, so it's called as what? Transpiration. So stomatal apparatus are the main appendages of the plants, which involves in a process called as transpiration. Okay, so these we can see in the epidermal tissue system. Next is the vascular tissue system. So what is vascular tissue system? So vascular bundles such as xylem and phloem, the complex permanent tissue will form a bundles and arranged in a tissue system called as vascular tissue system. Okay, so vascular tissue system are of different types. How the xylem and phloem has been arranged. Based upon that, there are different types of vascular type tissue system on based on how the xylem and phloem elements are arranged. Okay, if the xylem and phloem found on the same radius, then it is called as what? Conjoined vascular bundle. Okay, so what is that? If xylem and phloem arranged on the same radius, then it is called as conjoined vascular bundle. Okay, so if only a single layer of phloem and xylem elements is found in the tissue system, then it is said to be collateral. What is that? Collateral. Okay, next, if two layers of any of xylem or phloem elements are arranged like this. See here, outermost phloem elements are there. Next here, outer region phloem elements are there. These are called as outer phloem and inner. So if this type of arrangement is there, then it is called as bicollateral. Bi means both the sides are having same vascular tissue. Okay. So collaterally single one layer straight. Okay. Bicollaterally outer ಮತ್ತೆ inner same. Okay. Next, collateral is again divided into two types: closed, open. If there is a cambium tissue, meristematic tissue found in between the phloem and xylem, then it is called as what? Collateral open, conjoined collateral open type of vascular bundle. If there is no cambium in between the xylem and phloem, then it is called as conjoined collateral closed type of vascular bundle. Okay, so what is this bicollateral then? See, bicollateral, we can see the formation of outer cambium, inner cambium, and then in between the outer and inner cambium, we can see the formation of xylem elements, whereas phloem elements. Such type of arrangement is said to be bicollateral. Okay, next, concentric. What's the meaning of concentric here? So, phloem is in the form of a bundle, whereas xylem surrounding the is also appearance in the form of a circle which surrounding the phloem. Okay, if xylem present in the innermost region and phloem appears as surrounding the xylem. Xylem appears surrounding the then it is said to be what? Concentric type of vascular bundle in the amphiveins. Okay, if xylem appears in the inner region, whereas phloem appears in the outermost covering region, then such a type of arrangement is said to be amphicribal. What is that? Amphicribal. This is amphivasal and this is amphicribal. Okay. Phloem inner side, xylem outer side, amphiveasal. Xylem inner side, phloem outer side, amphicribal. Okay, next. If they are not found in the same radius, if they are found on the different radii, xylem 1 radii, phloem 1 radii, then it is said to be radial vascular bundle. See, in the same radius, xylem elements will be there or phloem elements will be like this. Okay, such a type of arrangement is said to be radial vascular bundle. Different types of vascular tissues system has been found in different type of appearance inside the root, stem as well as leaf. Like, okay, shall we discuss that? Last one is what? Ground tissues. After this is the ground tissue system. Ground tissue system is made up of mesophyll cells. Okay, except the vascular tissue system as well as the epidermal tissue system, all the tissues found inside the plant structure is called as what? Ground tissue system. Majorly made up of mesophyll cells, which are dense, having dense cytoplasm and consisting of a chloroplast structure and majorly involved in photosynthesis. Okay, so next we have to study about the internal structure, tissue arrangement in transverse section of three parts of the plant, that is leaf, stem and root. So this diagram is representing the transverse section of monocot root and dicot. So in monocot root and dicot root structure are more or one and the same, which differs from few points. Let us see what is that. Okay, first we will go with the dicot root. The outermost covering of the dicot root is called as what? Epiblemma, which is also called as what? Epidermis, epidermal cells. These are made up of a single layer of barrel-shaped cells. So here and there we can see the formation of a unicellular hair, which is protruded from extension of the epidermal cells. Okay, next to the epidermal cells, we can see the formation of a cells called as what? Parenchymatous cells. That layer of cells are called as cortex. Okay, next to the cortex, we can see the formation of a single layer of barrel-shaped cells called as endodermis. So this endodermis show tangential and radial walls thickening by the formation of a suberin material. And the structure is said to be Casparian strips, where it will never allow the movement of water through them. Okay. So next, here and there in the endodermal region, some of the cells are there which never show the radial and tangential wall thickenings, Casparian strips formation. So such cells will allow the movement of water. Okay, such cells are called as what? Passage cells. Next to the endodermis, we can see the formation of a single layer of cells called as pericycle. And inside the pericycle, there is an innermost layer pith, and then surrounding tissue is called as conjunctive tissue. And between the conjunctive tissue, the xylem and phloem are arranged. So this is a type of radial vascular tissue where phloem found in the same radius, xylem found in the same. And the xylem was said to be tetrad. Why? How many vascular bundles are there? 4. Hence it is said to be tetrad. And then metaxylem is facing towards pith, protoxylem is facing towards periphery. Such an arrangement is said to be exarch. Okay. Next, what is that? Innermost layer is called as pith. Same type of arrangement is also seen in monocot root, whereas the pith is little bit large when compared with the dicot. Observe carefully, the pith is large and the xylem elements are not in 4, there are many. Hence, more than 2, 3, 4, hence it is said to be polyarch. Okay, so that's the difference what we can find between monocot root and dicot root. Next, monocot stem. Okay, the structure of monocot stem. In this, we can see the formation of scattered vascular bundles. Okay, so there is a scattered vascular bundles, and it is also made up of a single layer of epidermis. Next to the epidermis, we can see the formation of hypodermis, which is made up of sclerenchyma cells. In case of monocot stem, hypodermis is made up of sclerenchymatous cells. Okay, so next to the hypodermis, we can see the formation of chlorenchyma.